Thursday's lecture, we talk about the methodology of the fiqh session, and we try to know more about the madhahib, and we expose ourselves to know more about the methodology that every madhab has and adopted. And when it comes to the diversity in the Islamic knowledge with different schools of madhab, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us this knowledge, Allahumma ameen, Ya Rabbil Alameen, and to have this tolerance and to have the flexibility so we can know more and more about our deen, Allahumma ameen, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillah, almost this is the third lecture about the life journey of Imam Al-Shafi'e, after we had spoke about Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, and Imam Al-Shafi'e. We mentioned, alhamdulillah, lots of stuff about him. We talked last time about his qualities and what he was famous of. And alhamdulillah, Imam Al-Shafi'e, rahimahullah, as we mentioned, he was born at the year 150 and he died at the year 204. So that means he lived 54 years old. But we said at a very, very young age, he mastered almost every branch of knowledge that he went through. So he was the scholar of hadith, the scholar of tafsir, the scholar of fiqh, of course. That's why we have the madhab of Imam Al-Shafi'e, rahimahullah. And Imam Al-Shafi'e, also one of the things that we talked about, that he had the qualities of the consciousness of Allah and very close to Allah. He was charitable person, the one who used to spend for the sake of Allah whenever he has money or whenever he has something. Even his knowledge, he considered the knowledge itself as the sadaqah that he's giving to people. And one of his qualities that we know about him, he used to give and make jokes in his lecture. So he used to start his lecture with riddles and asking people some questions to attract their minds. And that is at the beginning of each and every lecture. He used to ask people, instead of starting directly to do his lecture, he used to give those riddles to attract their minds. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the best of the knowledge of Imam Al-Shafi'e, rahimahullah. And if you remember, we mentioned that Imam Al-Shafi'e was born in Gaza, in Palestine. Then his mother took him to Mecca, where he settled and established his life. And then he moved to Medina. And after the time in Medina, you can draw your own chart. So Gaza to Mecca, Mecca to Medina, from Medina to Mecca back, and from Mecca to Najran. Where is Najran? We mentioned on the borders between Saudi and Yemen now. Okay, mostly in Yemen. So he spent the time and he worked as Qadi, as a judge. So Imam Shafi'i, and as I told you, all what we are talking about, and yet he didn't reach to the age of 30. He mastered everything almost in aspects or in terms of knowledge. He mastered all of these things even before he reached to 30 years old. Subhanallah. Imam Shafi'i was amazing. And not only the fiqh, as I told you, back on the days, you have two branches. Whether you will be a specialist in al-hadith or to master hadith or fiqh. Imam Al-Shafi'i mastered both. And not only this, he mastered the tafsir of Quran. And he was so eloquent in the Arabic language. And you remember the tribe that we said he was raised up there? Let me, if you still remember. Okay, so how many persons we have in the masjid? Two. mashallah. So if we said that's multiplied by $10, mashallah, we can get a nice amount of money. So he went to the tribe, it is called Hudayl. He lived there and they taught him the Arabic language. They taught him how to be so eloquent in the Arabic language. He was able to give poems and mashallah. Imam Al-Shafi'e was amazing, mashallah. So after he stayed in Mecca a little bit, we mentioned last time he traveled to Baghdad and he got the knowledge of Imam Abu Hanifa, the Hanafi madhab, from the student of Imam Abu Hanifa, Al-Shaybani. And he spent the time with the Imam Al-Shaybani. How many years did he spend inside Baghdad? 3 years. Stayed in Baghdad for 3 years. And he spent most of the time with the Imam Al-Shaybani. One of the funny things that I want you to know that he wrote down the fundamentals and the basics of the madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa, beside the knowledge of Imam Al-Shaybani, and he had the load of the whole camel. He loaded the camel with huge, massive numbers of books on one camel, and he had the other camel. He was dragging the other camel, pulling the other camel with his stuff, with his books. He wrote it down, handwriting. Could you imagine? Subhanallah. Those people have the desire to get the knowledge, and they traveled a lot. Imam Shafi'i, he went and exposed himself to the different types of schools of madhab or schools of knowledge in terms of fiqh, in terms of the hadith. Stayed 3 years in Baghdad, and then he went back to Mecca. Who is there still in Mecca? His mother, okay? And he went to Mecca and stayed in Mecca, giving the lectures and have his own halaqah, and has massive number of students were right next to the Kaaba. Allahu Akbar. Right next to the Kaaba. And his age almost was like 36 years old. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah. Look at the status. The Imam in Al-Kaaba, the Imam in Al-Masjid Al-Haram, and he's giving the knowledge. He's giving the lectures. Allahu Akbar. He was teaching people the madhab of Imam Malik. That's his teacher. And not only this, he combined the madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik. And by the way, you might ask, Imam, what's the most unique thing about the madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa and the madhab of Imam Malik? How many sources for the Islamic law? Let's count. Quran. These are the sources that we are extracting the Islamic law from. Quran, Sunnah, Qiyas. Qiyas means analogy. Ijma', the consensus of the scholars. And other like istishab, accompany, like to take a rule with another rule almost similar to it, or istihsan, to prefer a certain way of rule. So we have Quran, Sunnah, Ijma', Qiyas, Istishab, Istihsan, almost like 6-7 ways of or sources of extracting the Islamic rule. And of course we have more. So the way of Imam Abu Hanifa to extract his Islamic rule was al-Ra'i. Al-Ra'i, which is, equivalent to the analogy, to do qiyas, analogy. And Imam Al-Shafi'i got the knowledge of Imam Abu Hanifa through his student Al-Shaybani, and he was the student of Imam Malik. What makes the madhab of Imam Malik so unique? Hadith. Allahu Akbar. Imam Malik, his madhab was depending on the hadith, and he combined both of them in his first book for fiqh. It's not actually for the fiqh as fatawas, as cases, for something we call it usul al-fiqh, the fundamentals of fiqh. He talked about the legal theory of fiqh. So he talked about, he combined both of them. Whatever needs to have hadith, he used Imam Malik's madhab. Whatever used to have the knowledge or the ra'i, the analogy, he used to use the technique of Imam Malik, of Imam Abu Hanif. He put both of them in his book, which is called, no, Muwatta is for Imam Malik, okay? But he put it in a very famous book. It's called, you know, we have it's like a movie nowadays. It's called Ar-Risala, the message, okay? So don't search for that movie, okay? And say, Imam told me about the movie. No, Ar-Risala, I mean the message. That's the first book for Imam Al-Shafi'e, rahimahullah, that he combined both of the two madhabs. And during that time, while he was in Mecca, how many years he stayed in Mecca while he is doing the Risala? 9 years. So 3 years in Baghdad, then 9 years in Mecca. And during that time, one of his brilliant students had joined him, had met him for the first time, was Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal. He met him in Mecca during the 9 years that he stayed in Mecca, and that was the year 195 Hijri. Imam Al-Shafi'e was at that time 45 years old. At that time, Imam, or the Khalifa Harun al-Rashid, passed away. Imam Al-Shafi'e was thinking to go back to Baghdad. He wanted to go more, to get more knowledge of the madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa, and to spread his knowledge through a Risala book. At that time, the Khalifa for Muslimin was the son of Harun al-Rashid. And it's very rare in history for his name to be mentioned. His name is Al-Amin. You know Al-Amin, the honest, the trustworthy person? That was the title for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam before the prophethood. So Al-Amin, Imam Al-Shafi'i, traveled back to Baghdad while Al-Amin was the Khalifa for Al-Muslimin. And he stayed again in Baghdad for 4 years. 4 years. So now you can have the chart. 3 years, then 9 years in Mecca, then 4 years again in Baghdad. The first 3 years were good, mashallah, under the time of Al-Amin, the son of Harun al-Rashid. He was righteous, a pious ruler. But after his death, the Khalifa was assigned, after him was Al-Ma'mun. Al-Ma'mun. And Al-Ma'mun was related to a certain group of people started to appear in Baghdad during that time. Maybe you have heard about this group before. They are called Al-Mu'tazila. Al-Mu'tazila. Al-Mu'tazila, those people that we still have till today, Mu'tazila in the world. And we don't have too much time to speak about the Mu'tazila, but I will give you a hint. Who are Al-Mu'tazila? They are Muslimin, but they have certain doctrine, or they consider themselves Muslimin, but they have certain doctrine, different creed than us. One of the things that they believe in, they believe that the Quran was created, not the word of Allah. Even Al-Ma'mun, the Khalifa during his time in Baghdad, he used to put the phrase on the top of the minbar, each minbar, he used to put the phrase that Al-Quran was created. He had this ideology. He wanted to change the ideology of people. So he wrote it down in each and every masjid. That was his command. So the first thing they believed in, that Al-Quran was created. Number two, they denied the divine decree. They said, astaghfirullah for that. They said Allah does not know what's going to happen tomorrow. So they denied the divine decree. And not only this, they have the third one. They said the one who did any major sin, he will be a disbeliever. They said فاعل الكبيرة كافر. The doer of the major sin will be a disbeliever. And of course, that's against our beliefs, that's against our doctrine. So Imam Al-Shafi'e, rahimahullah, at that time, he found that he will not be able to stay in Baghdad anymore. And by the way, during his time in Baghdad, Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal was with him. We said that he stayed 4 years. The first 3 years were stable, were nice, were good. And during that time, Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal took his knowledge. And he said, now I can feel that you can be the Imam of Baghdad. But as for me, I wouldn't be able to stay in Baghdad after that Khalifa and after those people. Because he already knew what happened with Imam Abu Hanifa and what happened with Imam Malik before him. So he knows what's going on with the governors, especially when Al-Ma'mun himself has sent for Imam Al-Shafi'e to work under his government to be Qadi, to be a judge, not only Qadi, to be the chief of judges. So he wanted to validate himself by having Imam Al-Shafi'e as a member of his government. So if anyone wanted to accuse his creed, wanted to accuse his doctrine, he would say, you know what, I have Imam Al-Shafi'e here. Otherwise, he is using his name to validate his rule. That was his plan. So Imam Al-Shafi'e had refused. And then he said, he gave his last lecture in Baghdad. I told you one of his qualities, he used to start his lecture by riddles, by puzzles, by questioning people. So the last lecture, he started by saying this riddle. He said to them, what's the verse in the Quran that we consider as an arrow for the hearts of the oppressors, and at the same time, it is as a relief for the hearts of the oppressed? One verse, it's considered as an arrow for the oppressors' hearts, and at the same time, a relief for the oppressed. He said, this verse in Surah Maryam, وَمَا كَانَ رَبُّكَ نَسِيًّا. Allah will never ever forget. So when the oppressor will read this verse, means what? Allah will not forget your dhulm that you did. And when the oppressed will read this verse, he will feel content, satisfaction. He will feel that he is relieved because Allah one day will take revenge. Allah one day will punish the one that he oppressed him. So this is the verse, وَمَا كَانَ رَبُّكَ نَسِيًّا. Then Imam Al-Shafi'i decided after this lecture that no more I wouldn't stay in Baghdad, and I will go to travel to Egypt. He traveled to Misr, to Egypt. So now you have the whole journey now. Gaza, Palestine, Mecca, Medina, Mecca, Najran, Mecca, Baghdad, Mecca, Baghdad, from Baghdad to Egypt. I hope you got it, okay? So he exposed himself to different schools of thought. Now he got the Hanafi, and he got the Maliki in Medina. And why he is traveling to Egypt? Why especially Egypt? Because at that time he had heard of a scholar, a great scholar was at Egypt, but he died. And that scholar, he has students, and they are spreading the scholar's knowledge. That scholar, his name is Al-Layth ibn Sa'd. Al-Layth ibn Sa'd. Al-Layth ibn Sa'd, I wish we have time. I hope we have time so I can tell you about Al-Layth ibn Sa'd. Al-Layth ibn Sa'd, even Imam Al-Shafi'e said about him, he said, Al-Layth ibn Sa'd is deserving of having a madhab even more than me. So if his students did not neglect his knowledge and did not write it down, we would have today the madhab of Al-Layth ibn Sa'd, as we have Imam Malik, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Al-Shafi'e, Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal. Al-Layth ibn Sa'd was a faqih, was a knowledgeable person, and he also mastered the hadith knowledge. Imam Al-Shafi'e, before traveling to Egypt, he said the poem, he said, قَدْ أَصْبَحَتْ نَفْسِي تَتُوقُ إِلَى مِصْرَ وَمِن دُونِهَا قَطْعُ الْمَهَامَّةِ وَالْقَفْرُ فَوَاللَّهِ مَا أَدْرِي أَلِلْفَوْزِ وَالْغِنَى أُسَاقُ إِلَيْهَا أَمْ أُسَاقُ إِلَى قَبْرِ. He said, my nafs, myself, is yearning, is longing to travel to Egypt. And of course, if I will exert too much efforts to reach over there. And he said, I swear by Allah, I do not know if I'm going to become more wealthier and successful, or am I going to my grave? Allahu Akbar. He felt that he is going to die in Egypt. And when he traveled to Egypt, he got both. He became wealthier, and it was the place for his grave. That happened in the year 199. That means he stayed in Egypt 5 years. Of course, he was welcomed in Egypt by lots of students have heard about Imam Al-Shafi'e and already had met him during the season of Hajj. He was welcomed by lots of scholars in Egypt as well. He stayed in Cairo, okay? And of course, we have till today, alhamdulillah, the entire area, you know, the entire place, it is called the area of Imam Al-Shafi'e. And we have a special masjid named after him, the masjid of Imam Al-Shafi'e, and his grave is well known in Egypt, in Cairo. You know, just reach to Cairo, take the subway, the underground, tell anyone, I want to go to Imam Al-Shafi'i's masjid. Even you have the little kids, they can point to you and can direct you where the masjid of Imam Al-Shafi'e will be. So Imam Al-Shafi'e, you know, he was admiring the madhab, the knowledge of whom? Al-Layth ibn Sa'd. So once he reached Egypt, he went to the graveyard of Al-Layth ibn Sa'd. He went to his grave and he made dua for him. Imam Al-Shafi'e established himself and settled in Cairo, in Egypt, and he started to spread his knowledge in a certain masjid, and he had the students and came and welcomed him, and lots of people, like he used to have 10,000 students in each and every lecture. Almost 10,000 students were attending to Imam Shafi'i during his time. He was one of the famous scholars in the entire Islamic world at that time. Subhanallah, that's Imam Shafi'i. Even before he reached to the age 50, he was the famous scholar in the entire Islamic world at that time. And Imam Shafi'i had met, while he was in Egypt, had met a great scholar who gave him a great influence. And by the way, she was a female. A female. And that gives you lots of revising and, you know, to comprehend more and think about a female teacher in Islam that will be the greatest teacher for Imam Al-Shafi'i with Imam Malik. Could you imagine? What's her name? It's a surprise. Her name, because she is related to Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So as Imam Al-Shafi'i, from the same offspring, from the same progeny, she is also one of Ahlul Bayti, the household of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Her name was Nafisa bint al-Hasan. Who is Nafisa bint al-Hasan? The daughter-in-law of Ja'far ibn al-Sadiq. So Ja'far al-Sadiq, or Ja'far al-Sadiq, so he has a son, his name is Ishaq. Ishaq married Nafisa bint al-Hasan, and actually she was the granddaughter of Al-Hasan ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu. He was her student. He used to go and visit her and seek her knowledge in hadith and fiqh, both of them. I told you that's something unique at that time, to find someone mastering both hadith and fiqh. Most of people during that time, whether you will be a specialist in hadith or just in tafsir or just in fiqh, she mastered both of them. And at that time, Imam Al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah, of course, Nafisa, Sayyida Nafisa bint al-Hasan, she was so sincere and devoted worshipper. And Imam Ibn Kathir mentioned a lot about her. When you read what Imam Ibn Kathir, wallah, you will be amazed. When Imam Ibn Kathir is talking, he said she was abida, mukhlisa, she was a devoted worshipper. She was so sincere. She was so charitable woman. She used to give the charity a lot to the poor and needy. And she did almost 30 times Hajj. 30 Hajj. 30 times she went to Hajj. So think about this. And she was the teacher of Imam Al-Shafi'i. If Imam Al-Shafi'i, the person that I'm talking about, almost 2 hours in 3 lectures, you know, just we try to get closer to his personality. If that is the Imam Al-Shafi'i that we talk about him, what about his teacher? Sayyida Nafisa bint al-Hasan. And because we have lots of Muslims, they think we do not have female scholars. We have a lot of female scholars, a lot of female scholars, and they enriched our Islamic history with lots of things that you can never imagine. Imam Shafi'i stayed with her, and look at this, he started to review his Fatawa in al-Risala. You remember the first one? And he started to write down a new madhab. That's why we have the old Shafi'i madhab and the new Shafi'i madhab. So what did he find in Egypt? Listen to this. Egypt at that time had the Hanafi students and the Maliki students. But the Maliki students, they were so extreme and tough with people. They couldn't allow even little disagreements. If you wanted to argue with one of them, he becomes furious, he becomes angry. So he found that some of the students of Imam Malik, his teacher, did not understand, did not fully understood the way of Imam Malik. They were students who took the knowledge from the books, but they didn't understand the spirit of the madhab, the essence, the core of the madhab. That's why he started to modify some of his views, some of his opinions, according to what he saw in Egypt at that time. That's why he wrote the other famous book in the fiqh. It is called Al-Um. Al-Um. Do you know what's the meaning of Al-Um? You know, the mother. The mother. And why he named it Al-Um, the mother? Because he said that will be the moderate way to combine the Hanafi with the Maliki madhab. So if you wanted to follow the middle way, that's what the scholars said. If you wanted to find the middle way, not so too extreme, not too harsh, not too hard, you know, not too hard to follow, it will be easiest. It will be the easiest. It will be the most moderate way. They said follow Al-Shafi'i's madhab, which is Al-Um, that he combined both Hanafi and Maliki madhab. He stayed giving his lectures, teaching his students, and lots of things we can know about Imam Al-Shafi'i. Let me finish by this. Imam Al-Shafi'i did something before he died. Almost 2 years before he dies, he started to write down books about what that he disagreed with other scholars about. Like, for example, if he had a scholar, he would tell us why he disagreed with him. Why he disagreed with him? Why? What happened? What are the issues that he is disagreeing with him? So he wrote down for some other scholars, and he started to think about his teacher, Imam Malik. He said to himself, where are the issues? What are the issues that I'm disagreeing with my teacher about? And he had the intention to write down these issues in a certain book. He said about that, he said, وَالنَّاسُ كُلُّهُمْ عِيَالٌ عَلَى الْإِمَامِ مَالِكِ فِي الْفِقْهِ. He said, all people are dependent children for Imam Malik when it comes to fiqh. So that means he is acknowledging that he is his teacher. And not only this, he said, he started to pray istikhara. You know istikhara? To ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that thing, whether it's good or bad. He started to pray istikhara almost for 1 year to decide whether to write down this book or not. And finally, he decided that he will write down his book. What are the disagreements between me and Imam Malik? So who are there? the extremists of the students of Imam Malik. So he knows that that book will create lots of troubles for him. But yet, for the sake of Allah, he decided to write down this book. So Imam Al-Shafi'e wrote down that book, and since that time, as he expected, the students of Imam Malik, not the normal ones, the extremists, were against him, were fighting him, were chasing him everywhere in Cairo, till the day, and we have two narrations why Imam Malik, why Imam Shafi'i. I'm sorry if I mixed between the names, it happens. So why Imam Shafi'i, like what was the reason for him to pass away, to die? They said one of the reasons that one day after he gave his lecture and all people left the masjid, the students of Imam Malik, the extremists, came and they beat him up inside the masjid because of his book, the disagreements between me and Imam Malik. And despite that he started that book, if you read it, he started this book by praising Imam Malik. Like quarter of that book, he is praising Imam Malik and his methodology and ideology. Subhanallah. But yet they become jealous and angry at him. So they beat him up and he went his home, like had some wounds, some, pain and stuff. Then he stayed in his house for almost 10 days. Then he passed away. And for those who came to visit him while he was sick, Sayyida Nafisa bint al-Hasan, his teacher, the female teacher, was one of the visitors to him. And before he dies, Imam Al-Shafi'e, he said the Shahada, rahimahullah, and he said certain words as a poem. He is praising and making munajat to Allah. Of course, you know munajat. He's praising, supplicating, talking with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but in a way of poem. He said, إِلَيْكَ إِلَهُ الْخَلْقِ أَرْفَعُ رَغْبَتِي. For you, O my Creator, I raise my longing. وَإِن كُنْتُ يَا ذَا الْمَنِّ وَالْجُودِ مُجْرِمًا. Subhanallah. In spite the one who is possessor of the kindness, I find myself as a criminal, means I'm a disobedient. ما قسى قلبي وضاقت مذاهبي ولما قسى قلبي وضاقت مذاهبي جعلت الرجا مني لعفوك سلما. When my heart gets constricted, when my madhahib, when my path started to be narrow, I just was thoughtful of your forgiveness, O Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ta'azamani dhanbi. I found my sins are so great, are so vast, are so much. فَلَمَّا قَرِنْتُهُ. When I compared my sins بِعَفْوِكَ, with your forgiveness, كَانَ عَفْوُكَ أَعْظَمًا. I found your forgiveness is even greater than my sin. And he said his shahada and his soul came out. And Imam Al-Shafi'e rahimahullah passed away on the day of Jumu'ah. And that's a good sign. He passed away in his house, and that house became afterwards like almost his grave. And now you can find it in Cairo till today, the grave of Al-Imam Al-Shafi'e and the masjid of Al-Imam Al-Shafi'e, rahimahullah Rabbil Alameen. And of course, we have all his students all over the world till today. They are studying his madhab, his views, and they are adopting his way of, extracting the Islamic law as a way of being in the middle, as a moderate way not to be so extreme, not to be so reckless about the laws of Islam. That was the methodology of Imam Al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah. That was his life journey. Think about this life journey, 54 years old when he passed away. He passed away in the year 204 Hijri, and he left behind that inheritance, the great legacy for Imam Al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah, Al-Risala and Al-Umm, and lots of books that he talked about the Islamic law, the fiqh, the hadith, the tafsir, the poems. That's the legacy of Imam Al-Shafi'i. That's what made Imam Al-Shafi'i so unique. So we can have not only 3 lectures, we can stay the entire year talking only about Imam Al-Shafi'i and his knowledge. And do not forget that he left behind in Baghdad his student, Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah, with Al-Mu'tazila. Do not forget Al-Mu'tazila, because we are going to talk about them, inshallah, next time, and Al-Ma'mun. So we have Al-Ma'mun in Baghdad, and Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal, the student of Imam Al-Shafi'i. Inshallah, next time we are going, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, if Allah give us time, give us life, we do not know, but if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed us to gather again, we will talk about Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah. Think about those great examples in our Islamic history. We have a lot to talk about them. Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Al-Shafi'i, rahimahumullah. Jazakumullah khairan. Barakallahu feekum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the barakah of the knowledge and the Islamic knowledge. May Allah give us the barakah of the Quran and the barakah of the hadith and the barakah of learning from our scholars. Allahumma ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. May Allah shower all of them with His mercy. Ya Akram al-Akramin. Jazakumullahu khairan. Barakallahu li wa lakum في القرآن العظيم ونفعني وإياكم بما فيه من آيات والذكر الحكيم. I'm sending my salam to each and every person is watching us on Zoom or Facebook Live. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you. Allahumma ameen. Jazakumullahu khairan. Inshallah, see you tomorrow for Jumu'ah khutbah and for Jumu'ah night lecture. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.